Most people will freeze to death in their own homes, and they won't even see it coming. When the power goes out, it takes just 8 hours for a modern house to lose half its heat. By day 2, your living room's colder than your fridge. And the worst part? Over 300 Americans die every winter from cold-related exposure, most of them inside their homes, not in the woods, not on a mountain, at home. Because they made mistakes they didn't even know were mistakes. If you think a couple of candles and a blanket will keep you warm, you're already in danger. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 10 biggest cold weather survival mistakes people make during blackouts, and exactly how to fix them before it's too late. Let's start with the first and coldest mistake. 10. Trusting your thermostat memory. Instead of knowing your home's cold zones, look, when the power goes out, your thermostat becomes as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Yet most people keep walking around their house thinking, well, the living room always stays warm. Nope. That living room is only warm because your central heating system is pumping treated air into it. Once the furnace dies, the natural warmth of a room is a lie. What really matters now is thermal retention. And most homes lose heat in wildly uneven ways. The biggest mistake you can make? Trusting the old comfort zones instead of mapping your heat loss in advance. Before the blackout even happens, you need to do a cold zone test. Pick a freezing day and turn your heat off for 3 hours. Track the temperature drop in each room using cheap digital thermometers or just a laser temp gun. You'll be shocked. That office with the big windows, it might bleed 7 degrees per hour. That bathroom with the external wall and tiled floor, it's an icebox by morning. Meanwhile, your cluttered storage room might hold heat better than your kitchen. Why? Insulation, window gaps, floor types, air leaks. Understanding where your heat stays is how you survive a winter power outage without burning furniture. The fix? Choose 1 or 2 rooms in advance to convert into emergency heat zones. Block off unused hallways with moving blankets. Use painter's plastic and duct tape to seal off door frames and windows. Lay thick rugs or foam mats on hardwood or tile floors, because heat escapes downward too. Keep in mind, even if your whole house drops below 40 degrees, you only need to maintain one room at 55 degrees to survive comfortably for days. Learn your cold zones now, and when the grid fails, you'll be ready to retreat to your warmth fortress. 9. Ignoring the stack effect. Your heat is literally flying out the roof. Here's something they don't tell you in high school science class. Heat doesn't just leak through windows. It gets sucked out of your house by a phenomenon called the stack effect. When warm air rises and escapes through the attic vents or leaky ceilings, it pulls freezing cold air in from the ground floor to replace it. It's like your house is breathing, and when the power goes out, it exhales all your warmth straight into the winter sky. Now, the mistake people make is thinking they've got it handled just by sealing windows and putting towels under the door. That's great, but if your attic isn't sealed up tight, you're heating the outdoors. Heat rises naturally, yes, but during a blackout, there's no resupply of warm air, so that escaping heat is gone for good. And in many homes, the attic door or ceiling hatch is basically a sieve, a thin board with zero insulation. One test in sub-zero temperatures showed a 40-degree attic hatch could lower the adjacent room's air temperature by 10 degrees in just 90 minutes. So what do? First, seal that attic hatch with reflective insulation or foam board. Just tape it down with gaffer or HVAC tape. Next, stuff fiberglass bats or old blankets into any ceiling vents or light fixtures that open into uninsulated spaces. Even recessed lights can act like chimneys for warm air. If you're serious, install a radiant barrier or even hang a thermal curtain below the ceiling in your emergency warm room. Create a false ceiling that traps body heat. That's right, trap heat at your level instead of letting it rise 9 feet up and die. Most people obsess over their walls and forget that their roof is the real escape route. Fix that, and you'll be warmer 10 times longer. 8. Not understanding the danger of moisture lock. Humidity will kill your warmth. Here's a wild truth you probably haven't heard. Cold homes can still be humid, and that's deadly. When the power goes out and the heat stops, moisture doesn't just disappear. In fact, it starts building up in ways you can't see. Breathing, cooking, even just being in a sealed room with multiple people creates moisture. Now combine that with cold walls, windows, and floors, and you've got condensation. And when things start to get damp in a cold space, you've just built yourself a refrigerator. This is called moisture lock. When your sealed-off emergency room becomes so humid that your clothing, bedding, and even the walls start trapping cold instead of blocking it. Moisture conducts heat 25x faster than dry air. That means the second your blankets get a little wet, they might as well be made of aluminum. You stop holding heat, and that's how people wearing 5 layers still feel cold. They're basically stewing in humidity. The fix? You've got to ventilate strategically. Crack a window for 5 minutes every hour in the highest part of the room. Let that moist, warm air vent out. Cold air will rush in down low, but that's okay. You can control it by stuffing towels under doors and vents. Next, get yourself a moisture absorber. Calcium chloride buckets, even DIY versions with rock salt and mesh, will suck humidity out of the air. You can make these in 5 minutes with a yogurt container and some fabric. And if you're using any kind of flame heat like propane or candles, it's worse. Those produce massive humidity along with heat. Keep a thermometer and a hygrometer in your warm room. If the humidity rises above 60%, you're in danger. This is one of the biggest rookie mistakes in blackout survival. Thinking you're warm because the air feels thick. Nope, you're just being slow cooked in the cold. 7. Depending on one blanket, instead of a heat layering system. Don't make this mistake. Grabbing your biggest, fluffiest comforter and thinking that's enough. It's not. I don't care how thermal your blanket says it is. If you're not layering like a survivalist, you're gonna freeze. The truth is, your bed should be a microclimate during a blackout, and that means layers. Not just any layers, strategic ones. The mistake here is not building a heat trap. One thick blanket might feel warm for an hour, but once your body heat starts leaking out and the blanket surface cools, you're in for a miserable slow drop in core temp. Instead, you need 3 layers minimum. A moisture-wicking base, like a fleece throw or emergency bivy sack. A loft layer that traps heat, like wool or down. And a barrier layer, something like a mylar space blanket or thermal tarp on top to reflect body heat back in. And here's what most people don't realize. The cold doesn't just come from above you. It rises up from the mattress. Air mattresses, they're the worst in cold weather. There's air circulating underneath you and stealing every degree you've got. One test showed a person in an air mattress lost 7 degrees of surface heat in 30 minutes, even with a sleeping bag. You need insulation under you, closed cell foam pads, yoga mats, even folded wool blankets. Anything is better than bare mattress fabric. You can even add heat reservoirs like bottles filled with hot water, bricks warmed by a fireplace, or battery-powered heating pads between layers. But always protect your skin with a barrier. Don't put them directly on you. And here's a secret. Throw a heavy quilt or blanket on top of your entire setup, like a lid on a pot. That top-down pressure compresses everything and reduces airflow, locking the heat in. So ditch the one big blanket myth. Your bed should be a thermal fortress, because during a blackout, staying warm while you sleep isn't luxury. It's survival. 6. Heating one room while sitting in the wrong one. Here's a cold, hard fact. The warmest part of your house isn't always the best place to sit. One of the sneakiest mistakes people make during a blackout is focusing all their efforts on heating the room that's easiest to access or that feels coziest. But they never ask, is this room actually the most efficient to heat? And when you've only got battery-powered heaters, a kerosene unit, or just body heat and candles, every BTU counts. Think about this. How high is the ceiling? Vaulted ceilings. You're fighting physics. Heat rises, remember? If the ceiling's 10 feet up, you're heating air that you'll never even touch. Worse, many folks gather in large open spaces like kitchens or living rooms because that's where we spend our time. But with open archways, hallways, and staircases, the heat just runs for the exits like it's escaping a house fire. In fact, studies show that homes lose 30–50% more heat per hour in open concept designs compared to compact partitioned spaces. Here's how to fix it. Pick your heat zone based on cubic footage, not square footage. You want the smallest room, lowest ceiling, fewest windows, and ideally one with interior walls on all sides. Bonus points if it's carpeted or located over another room, not the basement. A bathroom or walk-in closet may seem small, but it traps heat like a thermos. Got a tent? Put it inside the room. That's right. Build a tent within your warm room and sleep inside that. People do this in rural Alaska all the time. Why? Because one candle in a tent can raise the inside temp by 15 degrees compared to the surrounding space. Don't waste energy fighting the house. Work with the architecture. Choose smart. compress your heat zone, and your heating method, no matter how weak, just became 10x more powerful. 5. Relying on emergency heat sources without understanding combustion danger. Let's talk about something most people mess up badly when the lights go out. Using heat sources they barely understand. I'm not here to scare you, but here's the brutal truth. Carbon monoxide poisoning kills over 400 people in the U.S. every year. And most of those fatalities happen during winter storms or grid failures. And why? Because people panic. Pull out that emergency propane heater from the garage. Strike up a charcoal grill indoors. Yes, people really do this. Or try to warm the house with the gas oven. Big mistake. Deadly mistake. The problem is incomplete combustion. That's when a fuel source burns but doesn't have enough oxygen to fully oxidize. That's how carbon monoxide is formed. It's invisible, odorless, and lethal. And here's the kicker. It builds up silently, even faster in warm rooms you've sealed off for insulation. The more airtight your emergency heat zone, the faster the gas accumulates. This isn't a theory. One FEMA study showed that using an unvented propane heater in a sealed 10x12 room could raise CO levels to dangerous thresholds in under 45 minutes. So how do you fix it? First, know your tools. Never use charcoal or a gas oven for heat indoors. Ever. If you're using propane or kerosene space heaters, they must be rated for indoor use and have oxygen depletion sensors. These units cost more because they're literally built to save your life. Even then, crack a window at the top and bottom for air exchange. Yes, you'll lose a little heat, but you won't lose consciousness. And here's something almost nobody talks about. Your candle game matters. 1 candle in a room, fine. 15 candles burning for hours in a poorly ventilated space? That's a low-key fire hazard and CO source. Stick with 2 or 3 high-quality beeswax or soy candles, and never leave them unattended. Also, pick up a battery-powered CO detector. They cost $20 and run for months. If it screams, you listen. Use fire with wisdom, not desperation, or the only thing you'll be warming is your obituary. 4. Forgetting your body is a furnace, and failing to feed it right. You might think the power's out, the fridge is off, and you're surviving off granola bars and peanut butter for a day or two. What's the big deal? Well, here's what nobody tells you. Staying warm in the cold isn't just about insulation, it's about fueling the engine. Your body burns calories to generate heat. It's a biological furnace. And if you're not feeding it properly, you're gonna freeze no matter how many blankets you pile on. Here's the science. In cold conditions, your body ramps up something called non-shivering thermogenesis, the process of heat production without movement. It's driven by brown fat activation and increased metabolic rate. But here's the catch. Your body needs fuel to do this, especially slow-burning calories like complex carbs and fats. Most people eat the wrong survival foods, protein-heavy bars, sugary snacks, or nothing at all. But protein burns clean and fast. You need fat for warmth. And no, that doesn't mean eating bacon all day. It means choosing shelf-stable, high-fat, nutrient-dense survival foods. Best options? Think peanut butter, nut butters, trail mix with seeds and dark chocolate, freeze-dried avocado or coconut chips, even powdered whole milk. These foods digest slowly and give your body the metabolic fuel it needs to radiate heat from your core to your extremities. You should be eating every 3-4 hours during a cold blackout, even if you're not hungry. That small meal gives your system something to burn. And that burn, it's warmth. Another mistake. Not drinking water. Cold air dehydrates you fast, and even slight dehydration reduces blood circulation to fingers and toes, making you feel colder. Warm water, herbal teas, or broth can also act like an internal radiator. If you've got a thermos, fill it with hot liquid and sip all day. Bottom line, you're not just a victim of the cold. You're the heater. Feed the fire, and you won't freeze. Starve it, and you'll be a human popsicle wrapped in down feathers. 3. Underestimating just how fast a home can turn into an icebox. People love to say, it's just for one night. It won't get that cold. And that's how they get burned by the cold. One of the biggest, most fatal mistakes is underestimating how fast your home can lose heat, especially if you're not prepared. I'm talking about a total internal temperature drop from 70 degrees to below freezing in under 24 hours in many parts of the country. And the scary part? You often don't even notice how cold it's getting until your core temp is already dipping. Let's break it down. Most homes built after the 1980s were designed for energy efficiency, not for off-grid survival. Your insulation, your vents, your ductwork, all of it assumes active heating is in play. Once your furnace cuts out, the insulation slows heat loss, but it doesn't stop it. In fact, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, even a well-insulated house can lose up to 1 degree every 45 minutes during extreme cold, depending on square footage and external temperatures. That means within 12 hours you can be well below comfort range, and in 36 hours you're sleeping in a meat locker. The worst part? Water pipes start freezing at 32 Rev. So while you're bundled up thinking you've got time, your infrastructure is silently cracking. Once those pipes burst, not only do you lose plumbing, but if the power suddenly comes back on and heat returns, now you're facing catastrophic water damage in the middle of a crisis. So what's the solution? Treat every blackout like it's going to be 48 hours minimum. That's your golden window. At the first sign of failure, boom, start insulating pipes. Run faucets at a drip to keep flow going. Use blankets or bubble wrap on window glass. Move people and pets to your heat zone immediately. Don't wait for the cold to set in. The second the temperature dips below 60 degrees Fahrenheit indoors, you are on the clock. Don't play chicken with the thermostat. Prepping is not paranoia, it's timing. And when it comes to heat loss, most people realize they were 6 hours too late, when it's already 28 degrees and dropping. 2. Thinking you don't need a backup heat source until it's way too late. This is the mistake that separates people who survive comfortably from those who suffer silently in 5 layers of socks and denial. Not having a real backup heat source ready to go. People always say the same thing. We'll just huddle together under blankets, or I've got candles. Or worse, the power won't be out that long. And then a nor'easter rolls in and buries the grid for 72 hours while you're using a tea light to warm your hands. Let's be blunt. You need a backup heat source, period. And not just some cheap $19 space heater from the clearance bin. You need something independent of electricity, efficient, portable, and tested before you ever need it. The most overlooked solution, a portable indoor-safe propane heater like the Mr. Heater Buddy series. These things are absolute game changers. You can heat a small room with one 1-pound propane canister for up to 5 hours. Or hook it up to a 20-pound BBQ tank and run it for days. And yes, they're certified safe for indoor use when properly ventilated. Another fantastic tool, the kerosene heater. Old school, yep, effective, more than you'd think. With just 2 gallons of kerosene, you can warm a medium room for over 12 hours. Just make sure you store fuel properly and keep the wick clean. If you're more advanced, you could look into a rocket mass heater, wood stove, or even a biomass burner for long-term off-grid resilience. But for most people, 1 or 2 reliable portable units is all it takes. And here's the trick nobody talks about. Test your backup system when it's not an emergency. Fire up the heater. Check how fast the room warms. Monitor CO levels. Practice ventilating. Teach your family. Make it muscle memory. Because in the real world, blackouts aren't like movies. You're not going to be calm and collected when it's 10 degrees and the lights snap off at 2:17 a.m. You'll be scrambling, or worse, hesitating. Don't rely on hope to heat your house. Have a plan. Have a tool. Have it ready. You can't wing it with winter. 1. Failing to prepare your mindset. Your brain is your warmest asset. This is the single most critical, most underestimated mistake. Not mentally preparing for cold survival. I don't care how fancy your gear is. If your mindset goes soft, you lose. Every single time. Cold isn't just a physical threat. It's psychological warfare. It creeps in. It demoralizes. It breaks people faster than hunger. Your toes go numb. Your breath gets shallow. Your hands fumble. And suddenly, you're too tired to boil water. Too foggy to light the heater. Too hopeless to problem solve. That's how people die. Not from exposure, but from mental shutdown. What people don't realize is that staying warm is not just about insulation. It's about engagement. You need rhythm, motion, decision-making. If you just lie down and wait it out, your core temp can plummet in hours. In fact, hypothermia often starts when indoor temps drop below 50 degrees if you're inactive and underfed. You may not even notice it happening until you're confused and sluggish. That's why your mind is your last line of defense. So how do you fix it? You create a mental checklist before the emergency hits. You break your survival tasks into blocks: fuel, warmth, water, rotation, activity. You plan for movement. You rotate shifts to stoke warmth. You stay mentally active by tracking indoor temps every hour, prepping hot drinks, organizing supplies, checking everyone's fingers and toes for frostbite. You treat survival like a mission, not a nap. And here's a psychological trick that works like magic. Create rituals. Light a candle at the same time every night. Make a warm drink every 2 hours. Rotate socks before bed. These small structured habits give your brain control, and control is the antidote to panic. Teach your kids. Practice drills. Make the cold something you manage, not something that manages you. In the end, your ability to stay warm during a blackout comes down to this: are you prepared to fight the cold with your mind, or are you going to let it creep in until it wins? Gear can fail, batteries die, but if you control your mindset, you control the outcome.